Good evening from my backyard. So I'm out here this evening to talk about science and the importance of critical thinking and applying logic as a individual. Now, if you are a person that believes in the collective, that believes that mankind is destroying the planet, that we are alien to the planet, then you should probably stop this video right now because this clearly is not going to be for you. I want to compare the past 3 years of COVID 19 to global warming as defined by the IPCC. And the reason I want to do this is because on both levels, uh, in order for these agendas to be successful, it requires that the individual suspend critical thinking and logic. So let's go on with the past 3 years of a human disaster called COVID 19. So, why was that a disaster? Well, if you look at the explanations that have been given this year, right, and these are the assessments that were made by the intelligence agencies in the United States. We had three that came out. Two of them stated that it was a natural emergence from nature without any proof. And the third one said, well, wait a minute, it might have come from a lab, right? And everything we know about the lab leak is that there was gain of function at Wuhan. I'm not going to get into everything, right? Either you believe it was a lab leak because it was a gain of function, or you don't, right? And if you don't, then you believe that it emerged from nature, or whatever story it is that you're latching onto, whether it be a pangolin, a horseshoe bat, or whatever it is. Okay, but there's enough information out there that clearly suggest that this was gain of function research for bioweapons purposes. It escaped from a lab. It doesn't really matter how it escaped from a lab because it was very effective. Okay, and you can go off in different areas with your theories about what the future holds, or what the intent of the mRNA gene therapy was all about. I will tell you right now, I did not get that thing, and for various reasons, and I'm very happy that I didn't. We have had more friends die over the past 2 years than the past 10, and they were all fully vaccinated. I'm not, you know, it's all anecdotal, right? As we get older, our friends get older, so I'm not laying a definitive association. I'm just sharing a observation, and we'll leave it at that. But the vast amount of humanity buys the scientific narrative, and they're not questioning COVID, right? They've accepted COVID as a new virus that is going to be with us, much like the flu, and that it's okay every year to take a tablet or get a vaccine or whatever it is. Uh, and that really is sad because these people have surrendered their logic and their critical thinking to higher authority. And that's very dangerous when you do that. You have to, in order to survive in this world, you have to realize one thing is always true. Nobody cares about you, the individual. I'll say it again. Nobody cares about you, the individual. They care about the collective. They care about the herd. But if you do something that they say that you should do and you die, you think they're going to spend 1 second talking about it? No, because you're just a data point, right? You don't matter. And probably a good time now to like segue into global warming, right? Same thing, still under the umbrella of science. However, a little bit different in that it's been around a lot longer, where the IPCC, which is a non scientific body, has hijacked scientists into the body, and they've hijacked climatology. and they want you to believe that CO2 is going to exterminate humanity, right? At the same time, they don't talk about how good CO2 is for the planet. I mean, the Earth is greened enormously because of the increased CO2 ppm, which I believe is at about 415 right now. It's historically low throughout the, timeline of the Earth. So there is no connection between temperature and CO2. It's not there. So when you look at the past records, and these are, that go back, millions of years, CO2 was very high, above 2,000 ppm, and we went through very cold periods on Earth with very low temperatures. And, we came out of a Jurassic and Triassic period where there were no ice caps, right? Where CO2 ppm was above 2,000. And the temperature on Earth was a few degrees Celsius higher than what it is today, right? So when you look at over the past 100,000 years, we've been through numerous ice ages, up and down, up and down, up and down. If you look at CO2, it's at 415, and historically over that period, it's only been about 250 at the highest. But our temperatures are nowhere near higher than the past interglacial cycle. That's changing because they're manipulating the data, right? But we have nothing to fear with CO2. CO2 is a friend of the Earth. CO2 is abundant, and by putting fossil fuels into your gas tank and returning CO2 to the atmosphere, it's another day for Mother Earth. She doesn't care what the CO2 is, because CO2 is not the thermostat for temperature, as they say it is. It simply is not. So the fact about global warming is that Earth is in an interglacial warming period. So yes, we are warming. We're kind of like doing this, right? And potentially we could lose all our ice, just like they did over 10,000 years ago. When we emerged from the last ice age, before that, they came out of a warming period, and where the planet had no ice, right? So we have these long-term cycles, and when you confront them and tell them that, they will say, well, yeah, but man is accelerating that cycle with CO2, and there's no evidence of that whatsoever, right? This only has to do with one thing, and that is to destroy the petrodollar and to change the global economic system. They want us to argue back and forth about climate change, and they've been very successful in that because that's where our heads are. But we need to, on both sides, pull our heads up and look at their agenda of destroying the petrodollar. Now, when you do history into the petrodollar, it was established in 1973 by Nixon as a means of resolving the world oil crisis. OPEC increased the cost per gallon because they weren't happy with U.S. policies. And that had a huge effect. Long gas lines in the United States. Prices per gallon of gas shot up, and it was really a shock to our system, our economic system. So one means of resolving that Nixon thought, well, I can prevent this. And what I'll do is I will sell them with the idea of the petrodollar. And what that does is it transacts from OPEC nations oil in US dollar. And at that moment, when that happened, the US dollar became the world reserve currency. So that's why there's all this US cash throughout the world. It's because we have the world reserve currency. And that is why every other currency compares their market with the US dollar. So you can have a strong dollar or a weak dollar, and that has a corresponding effect with the foreign currency. So once they destroy the petrodollar, and I'll say real quick, this is why China is so interested in us meeting our commitments on climate change, because they know about the petrodollar, right? So once we destroy our own petrodollar, which is what we're doing, it's really economic suicide. The US dollar will eventually be replaced. It's going to create a huge vacuum, and that vacuum is going to be a global currency, a hybrid, maybe in the beginning with the yuan, but it's going to be online. And they will no longer base it on OPEC, because OPEC is oil, and oil's going away. So what instead they will do is base it on natural resources. And oil that is in the ground is a natural resource. So as our forest and gold reserves, they'll play into that. But really it's going to come down to changing the global economic system based on a country's natural resources. That's coming. It's already here in many regards. So they're definitely making the transition to do that. When you look at Russia, Ukraine, that is a vehicle to get us there, because this baby is still in the womb. And once it gets born, it's going to be global war. And that kid is going to be a very ugly kid. And that is going to be the pivot point of economic change. So get ready for that. Prepare any way that you can do. Stock up on rice, beans, water, and whatever it is, because these days are coming. Everyone knows it. They're just not being forthcoming in how to deal or how to prepare for it. So finally, having applied logic and reason, where is that going to get us? It's going to lead us to a better understanding of how we are being manipulated. And if you know how you are being manipulated by our leaders, then you can see where it is they want you to go. And then you have a choice. Do I want to go there, or do I not want to go there? Because they do not have your interest in mind. Okay, again, with them it's about the herd, it's about the masses, it's not about the individual. So keep your individuality, keep your logic and your critical thinking processes going, so that in the future you're going to have to rely on those. And when you rely on those, you will survive, instead of walking down the road of the destruction that they have planned for you. So that's it for this video. I do appreciate you tuning in. This is the Cold War Sailor, again with my aircraft carrier. Out.